It's Edge Radio Australia. Time for a little progress. Oh, hang on. Is it over perfection?
Over perfection.
See, yeah, that was the thing. I mean, we're always working. We're getting there. We're getting there, mate. Look, fantastic to have you here. Would you like to give a bit of an introduction? Because I would love to introduce you, but I butcher your name every single week. Mauro, because I want to give it an accent, okay? I want to give it a bit of...
Can't help it.
Okay, it's like saying Maori, you know, the Maori, the New Zealander, okay, with O at the end.
I know, but
Mauro.
I want to roll my tongue.
Mauro.
You've got to let me just have a little play. I know it's your name. Mate, it's great to have you here, but we have a very special guest. It's a very serious subject today,
See.
but like everything in life, you know, let's try and be as positive as we can with this one, and we'll jump into the show.
Absolutely. Welcome everybody to Progress Over Perfection. And this is another beautiful appointment about a relationship and what is around relationship. So when we have a relationship, most of the time we have teenagers around, and today we're going to talk about teenagers. It's very important topic because and I don't think many people talks about this subject. And I came across this wonderful lady and professional that work with teenagers. And I thought that was the best way to talk about teenagers with an expert. So her name is Neeka Zand. Neeka Zand is an action researcher, systematic advocate and social innovator in the WA mental health file. Now, it's a big thing here. Okay. Okay.
I tell you right now, I need a rest in the middle of it. That's quite a title.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you what is this, but first I want to read this fantastic thing because I think to understand what we have in front of us, I need to read this.
Yeah.
She worked in the field for over a decade, leading customer co-design project for peak social justice and mental health organizations such as Amnesty International, Counsellor of Mental Health, WA, Child and Adolescent Mental Health Service, and NEMI National. And she had the role as a big role as a suicide prevention coordinator for Perth Metro, and she lead and develop the Right by You consulting with over 200 young people in Perth, and plus she was the winner WA 7 News Young Achiever Award in 2023. Okay, and you went to talk all around Australia about the topic of teenagers.
Not teenagers specifically, but around
mental health.
Yes,
mental
youth
health.
suicide prevention, which is a topic that is very difficult for people to talk about, but is very important and prevalent in everyone's lives.
Yeah,
hugely important. And you're right, people don't want to talk about it. It's an uncomfortable conversation, but it's necessary.
I think the presentation was a must because plus you are a daughter of political refugees.
Yeah.
Your story about your dad, you told me is amazing. One day I want to meet your father.
Yes.
Anyway, can I ask you, what is an action researcher, systematic advocate and social innovator?
Oh, I'm sorry about that. It's very hard because I keep going into different roles, which the tasks and the outcomes of those roles are really similar, but it's confusing to just say I'm a suicide prevention coordinator, because then everyone thinks that I'm just going out and actively preventing suicide actively. But realistically, my roles have always been within action research, and action research is being a researcher, but on the ground. So you're often meeting community and you're meeting the concerns and the issues where they're at. And then you're going with that information to develop and innovate a solution in response to that concern. So even that Right by You project, which was that website, that was through action research that I had met with several schools and communities and young people who had lost a peer or a loved one from youth suicide, and it was really around what was happening consistently within community that they felt they needed more support on. And so that's how that project then came about. So action research is really creating action directly from research.
Okay. Yeah, no. Look, we're human beings. We like to make everything as complicated as possible.
100%.
And certainly with the name there, but ultimately, what are you doing? Wonderful work.
Yeah.
Okay. You're helping prevent suicide of such a vulnerable part of the community. And, you know, like when you're a teenager, I can actually remember, okay, it's a while ago, granted, you know, like, so to a big extent, there's so much going on in your life. One moment you're invincible, one moment you're on top of the world. The next moment, you know, people have put you down and you're feeling great pressure. I can't imagine the pressure of living as a teenager now with social media, right? Like, oh my.
100%. We talk about this a lot, the emerging trends that have come up for young people. It's more difficult than ever. Even today, I was talking to some people that there's obviously a lot of conflict internationally that's happening, and this is information that is consistently on their phones. And I'm having young people tell me that they're feeling feelings of hopelessness more than ever before because they feel the world is ending, climate change is ending the world, the World War III, World War IV, nuclear bombs. It's constantly feels like it's very dramatized, and you're getting a lot of people's unsolicited opinions as well emerging. And so that's creating further anxiety among young people. So that is just on the side of the usual teenager things that they have to
there's enough
deal
going
with.
on anyway, right?
Yeah. What is let's talk about a little bit about numbers. What are the numbers for the teenager, if you can say it?
Numbers, youth suicide. We do say that it is the leading cause of death for young people from the ages of 12 to 25. But it's really the ages of 18 to 25 that it has the, I guess, the highest emergence. And I think it was around 300 a year die by suicide under the age of 25 in Australia. It seems to be around 300 each year. And the worst thing about that, and we always say we don't like to talk about numbers because each number is a whole community and a whole family, and it's a whole, So it's harder to talk about numbers. But even when we say, for example, that number like 300, we always say that for every suicide there is about 100 to 200 times more people who have attempted. And so we can see those figures, but we can't see really
what is behind
the true state of what is really happening.
Do you think the where the people come from have or the status have an impact on decide this situation to decide? So, for example, if someone come from a low income family or high income family, have a determine in this situation, or more boys or girls, teenager have this kind of situation?
I guess when it comes to groups, it's definitely the most the key group in this space is that it's definitely Aboriginal and rural communities. I think Aboriginal young people, that their rate is 3 times more likely to die by suicide.
Horrendous.
And then I think on top of that, even rural communities, I can't remember the exact figure for that, but that was also significantly higher than in metro communities. I haven't seen any sort of separation in statistics around socioeconomic situation.
Okay.
But we do see a lot happen in both extremes. So even if it's the like, for example, when I was doing consultations, you really notice the schools that are having the suicides within the school is either the most elite, and I'm not going to name the school that I've had to go back to several times, but the top of the top private school in the top of the top area. And then you also have very more rural schools that are really struggling with are in much more lower socioeconomic situations. So we always say it doesn't impact anyone specifically. It really, like, it can impact anyone, no matter what your cultural, socioeconomic, religious background is. Everyone has had an experience or knows of someone who may have had an experience. I think 1 in 2 young people would have known or have been impacted by someone who's died by suicide in Australia as well. But yeah, when it comes to specifically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think the rural thing has got something to do with connection? Because of the lack of, I mean, obviously you don't, in a rural area, you don't have access to as many people, quite frankly. And the people you have got access to are on the internet, and we all know, what fun that can be. There's so much bullying, there's so much negativity. Algorithms, quite frankly, are designed to actually impact children in a really negative way, because quite frankly, it makes money.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a few reasons why people have said that they feel it might be higher in rural areas. One of those is definitely the lack of services that people can access. So there's not as much preventative support. The closeness of community. If something happens to someone within the community, everyone knows, and it feels like their whole world. So they feel like, for example, a lot of the times, especially I think as before you even saying with men suicides, a lot of times around financial responsibility. If they have feeling or relationship breakdown, if they feel that immense social pressure, a lot more being within such a tight-knit community that there's additional pressures and it doesn't feel like there's any escape from that, as well as access to means is definitely access to means is a really key thing that we do explore a lot in this space, and that is something that is a lot harder to control.
I'm going to be naughty. I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay.
Only because I think that the government plays that number up, as far as they play the angle of the fact of people, their shortness of their lack of ability to access these the government funded and the government run organisations. Because as someone who's been affected by this, as someone who actually deals with people who are committing suicide, and don't want to go down that path, but the reality is I deal with probably about 5 men a week contact me about suicide. Okay. And now about 5 men and 1 mum of a man. So that's obviously my demographic, and that's what I see. I'm actually seeing the overwhelming feedback that the services that the government are providing are pushing some men into suicide. That concerns me greatly. If men are telling me that, what's happening to kids? Because I know, and I'm going to say very unpopular things here, but like organisations like now, what is it? Headspace. The reputations that come out of places like that of actually pushing children into suicide. That's what I'm hearing.
And that's why this is so important to talk about, because those are often the conversations that it's hard for people, even like myself, who say that I'm coming in from an angle that I'm not going to get you in trouble, even to kids, but then I don't get an opportunity to hear those things. And I always say that it's really hard when, especially if something like that is happening, and if the services or even higher up isn't hearing about that, then you're right, they're going to continue doing that.
Here's the problem.
I
was doing some advocacy work and some look, I don't know how you really define it, but basically some policy stuff with Anglicare a number of years ago. And a lot of their work was, quite frankly, very, very negative and actually very full of misandry and very detrimental to society. Okay. So I laid out, this is what's going, this is what's happening, and they were very resistant to hearing that, because they said, look, we understand, but to be absolutely frank, we'll lose a lot of funding if we follow that.
Actually, we'll never work for Anglicare for specific
Anglicare
reasons.
and Relationships Australia are 2 of the most disgusting organisations in this country. And if you want to talk about others, I mean, Lifeline is highly questionable. You talk about the one that upsets me, and again, and I don't want to steal from the children. To be frank, I care more about teenagers than I do anybody else as far as kids. So kids are the future, okay? I've got kids myself who have had really horrible times, okay? I've gone through really horrible experiences. So, that's my priority. But when I'm dealing with these problems later on with other men and women who are coming my way. But, organisations like, I mean, here's a little thing. Do you know that there's not a single male counsellor at Men's Line?
No, I didn't know that. That's horrible.
Men's line.
That's
So
actually
you
really
ring
bad.
and you'll speak to a woman in her 60s. So, and to a counsellor who's done a 2-day course.
That's so bad.
It's disgraceful.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
actually why I stopped trying to promote Lifeline, because I felt like Lifeline was getting promoted so much, but it's only volunteers who don't have a clinical background.
Yeah.
That to me is really scary.
I agree.
Yeah, there's
Well,
definitely
what they do a Lifeline, they train you to
They do
be the
train.
first response.
yeah. a
So
crisis.
the point is of Lifeline, because I got involved with Lifeline for a little, so I know the people that are working with them, and the people I know personally
Yeah.
are very good people.
Sure.
Okay, and the way they work, they know, because it's a no-profit organization, they cannot have counselors that cost $250 an hour.
Mhm.
Okay, so they train people like me, for example.
Sure.
I'm a new counselor. I want to go and have some experience.
Yep.
They give you the training to respond
Yeah.
the phone.
Which I am
Okay.
100% on board with.
Yeah,
I agree with
yeah.
everything you've said there.
But that is, from my point of view, is much better than don't have
No,
anybody
nothing.
I agree.
can
Yeah.
listen to you, because many time what someone to think about suicide is just they need to have a conversation with someone.
Sure. Yeah.
You know? Now,
Now,
I don't know if under behind what I've seen there is other things, because I didn't get involved as deep as
we don't all get to see
understand.
every side,
Okay.
do we?
So-
We don't.
But for what I've seen and how they do the things is they know they're not counselors or psychologists
Okay.
or doctors.
Right.
They are
Yeah.
there to help. If someone call in and say, "Hey, I want to kill myself," they try to keep this guy or this woman
Yeah.
to think about of the effect and don't do it.
Sure. Now, and which is incredibly important, and I don't want to take away from that.
Yeah.
I want to throw another comment out, which is, I think, really important.
Yeah.
I hate the term not for profit because it's become the greatest lie. I tell you right now, Doe should have a go at it. It has become a lie. So when you've got a not for profit, when the CEO makes $3 million a year, I'm sorry, you're not a not for profit. To me, it's a deceitful way of getting money. You're not a charity when your staff are being paid $180,000 a year as like mid-level staff, but $180 a year. I know this for a fact at those organisations I was talking about before. When CEOs are making $3 million a year and figures like that, so not for profit is not. Yeah,
it's okay. I think that is another conversation.
Yeah.
What about today is, well, I think I want to talk about the teenager and
That's
what
right.
is the because I agree with you. I agree. Look, I'm going
Final
to
quick
this.
comment just around that. It's just that Lifeline is still very important, especially in the suicide prevention space, and we do want to promote it as a crisis support. I think the only problem that I have around it is just that it doesn't extend on, especially when it comes to teenagers. Even on the website, I'd be like, if you are in a crisis, you need to call 000 if you're in immediate danger. But if not, and you just want some immediate, emotional support in that point, then Lifeline is good, as they will answer. But for young people, I always say things like Kids Helpline, which is free counselors that they can call up, they can talk to, and they can have a continued relationship with a specific counselor, and free sessions. I think it's up to 6 sessions a year as well for free. So things like that, I'm always like, I want to promote a bit more for young people.
Absolutely, yeah.
No, I agree with you with what we're saying in some ways. But the thing is this. The thing is this. What was interesting about the conversation that I had with her when we met a couple of weeks ago was the fact that, so if you look at about the number about suicidal, if you look at the adult, male are overwhelming more at risk than women.
Yes.
But you told me that teenagers actually look like they living up, correct? So the girls and boys,
the suicidal tendency. So I think, but
or maybe I heard wrong.
so death by suicide is, I think still 75%ish, still boys,
Okay.
but the attempts by women is a lot
raising.
higher. So I guess it's just how you want to, explore.
Yeah, I want to talk about this situation. Now, yes, men maybe are more cynical. Maybe they go through more, more assertive. Actually, they do it. But there is a raise in women in this.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, what are the cause of this?
So I would say, like, for example, with women, I think it's coming up more than it has before. Before, I think it was definitely a lot more higher in young men. But recently, I think a bit more concerns have been coming up for women, because one of the key contributors to suicidal ideations for women, young girls, has been around revenge porn, which has been, it's just image-based abuse. And that's been coming up a lot more recently. And now we see bodies being built, like the E-Safety Commission, which is being built really in response to actions such as revenge porn. And a lot of the times what we're seeing is, especially with Snapchat and things like Snapchat, is really calm, and young people, view it as something that, you take a photo and it disappears after a few seconds, and then they don't know that the person that they've sent it to has downloaded an app which they can screenshot it without the person knowing. And then when they, of course, inevitably, like most teenage breakup, relationships end up ending, then if anything happens bad because someone's angry with someone, then they spread that photo around. And it's even been women have got those photos from a ex-partner of a man and of another girl, and they've spread it as well. Like, it's been quite shocking. It's like a power, like, in some young people's hands, that they've got these photos.
And okay, risk of sounding like an old man here, but like, when you're a teenager, you think you know everything.
Yes.
I certainly did. I knew everything. I was right? And then, life has taught me, my God, I wasn't a complete idiot. But you don't know. You don't know the consequences. You haven't played the game of chess, 20 moves ahead in life. So you don't know about sending that photograph to someone, what's going to happen or what may happen.
And and it's hard because they do so much trainings, because we thought as a sector that if you do training to schools and you explain to young girls, actually, this is happening and this can happen, and it's quite
they listen if you
they do train. But at the end of the day, and I'm just thinking, even when I'm glad I just finished school before Snapchat was really a thing. I don't know how I would have dealt with that. But you think that young girls they're like, no, this is the love of my life. And them same as the young boys, they're like, this is the love of my life. There's, young love is just so strong and so powerful.
Oh, it feels so good.
It feels
so good.
It's so true.
Yeah.
You don't know, Dad. You don't know.
Ultimately, Miss Right is Miss Right now. Okay, just understand that. When you're
explain that.
No, because when you're living it, you feel it.
Yeah. But can I ask you? Last year, the government came out with this new idea to ban internet for every teenager.
Social media,
sorry. Do you think is a good thing to do? What is your opinion on this?
There is a lot of discussions about this at the moment in the mental health space, especially in the suicide prevention space, because, well, we say there's a lot of things that build mental health. That is mental health education. There's community. There is a lot of things that is actually really positive for young people on social media. And I guess even when it comes to some of the more negative things, they have now, built in some things like, for example, E-Safety Commission now, if a young person did have an image of someone and they spread it, they will get onto it as soon as possible. You can contact the E-Safety Commission and they will prevent that. And young people have started to get prosecuted for sharing images. So now young people are getting a bit more scared. So there's a bit more safety around those things that were really dangerous. And I guess we are getting a lot more education around, how to use it safely. And even social media platforms have inbuilt a lot more things within their own platforms. So I don't know. I think now that they're planning to remove social media for young people, I don't know. I don't know. I can't. I don't know. What do you feel?
I disagree. I disagree 100%.
Yeah.
Like, I want to protect kids. You know what? If I could, here's the problem. The toothpaste is out of the tube.
Yeah.
Okay. You can't go back. Now, I am incredibly lucky. I'm Gen X. So I grew up in a nice analog way, cross over to digital. All the ridiculous, dumb stuff that I have done, there is no record of. There are no photographs of it. There's no video. Now, if I lived now, I would be, apart from the fact in prison, like, you know, the things that we did back then, you need to have the anonymity of your mistakes, right? And I feel so sorry for kids these days, teenagers, because honestly, what a terrible experience it is. And look, okay, and also the thing about becoming a brand. I'm going to say something strange here. Okay, we deal in the media world. We deal with a lot of people who have got a brand. Okay, isn't it unbelievably sad now that if you're an 8-year-old boy or 8-year-old girl, you've now got to be considering your brand. Right? That means you're on. That means you're a product. No, be a person. Be out there and be part of life. But the reason why I'm against the stopping of the social media is, to be absolutely frank, it is a Trojan horse. It is a backdoor way of actually having a credit system and a social ID. That's basically like what they have in China. So not wanting to play the big controversy. It's going to hit.
Communist.
Well, yeah, why not? The conspiracy theorists. That's the reality. It's about getting a whole nother generation onto digital ID nice and early, and then of course it's in the system forever. And I think that the old thing about having nothing to hide. I think privacy is a right, and I think teenagers have a right to privacy. I have teenagers. Okay, I love them incredibly. I don't want to know what they're doing. Okay, no, gross. Okay. But they have a right to do that, and as long as they've got a right to their lives, living their lives, but I want them to be safe. So, it's a step too far. Government need to get out of your wallets and need to get out of your bedrooms.
It's interesting because they have tried to introduce this into several countries.
Right.
I don't know if it was, but the worst part is that the countries that do have it are under dictatorial. So that's like, oh great, so Iran and China and North Korea are our buddies, like,
and just Iran. Yeah, that seems like a fun lifestyle.
But the thing is that I think, and even France tried to put it through, and I think Canada, I'm not sure, it was Canada as well. So there was 2 other countries as well that were less scary to be compared to. But in even the worst case scenario, even in Iran, where they say you can't have social media, you can't stop a young person. They all got VPNs. They all got like
They have a friend. I have a friend.
Miss everything. Instagram. They're big influencers.
Oh, cool.
It's like
VPNs.
VPNs. It's like when we were a teenager, we were looking to buy a bottle of wine. We were sent the order to get the wine for us.
About that is that as soon as you make something illegal, it just means that people figure a way how to hide it. If you have something to hide, then you're probably doing it more dangerously. So we don't have the E-Safety Commission and all these great things that we've developed in the last 2-3 years when things were being chaotic as hell. So then that's that. And that's what they say. Like, for example, you see with, like, for example, weed in America, they're like, okay, we can make it illegal, but then when we make it legal, then we can put some more safety around it or things like that. I don't know if that was a good example, but
but I think you're on something.
You know what I'm trying to say.
One really cool thing that we do here at Edge, we are interactive. So there is a question that has jumped up on the screen there. So Gavin, thanks for the question, mate. And now Gavin says, my daughter bans her boys from too much social media, and gee, are they excelling in sport and academia? It's a great example. Now, I think, like I grew up a motorsport kid, okay? So for me, how do you keep away from, alcohol and drugs, okay? Motorsport, because you'll never have money for alcohol or drugs, right? As simple as that. But
you too as well.
Bad example.
You too as a father, you finished the marathon.
As good as I say, not as I do. What I'm getting at is, if you've got, you can be focused in other worlds, right? And it's so much more value, right, to you, and you become, your mental health is a lot clearer. You set boundaries better in life. That's a big thing too.
Can I ask you, what are the consequences of if commissioner, correct? What is the
safety
safety commissioner
Yeah.
come out and get a teenager spreading a picture of me naked?
Of you specifically?
No.
Okay, because I was going to say,
I'm a teenager.
if you're a child.
I'm a teenager.
Okay, you're a teenager.
Okay. Okay. Us. We are teenagers. Okay.
Bro, you're into this as well now. I'm sorry.
We are teenager. Okay.
I can imagine.
He got my picture. Okay. He spread picture of me in situations. Okay. I reported to a commissioner. What?
Yes.
Aaron at this point can read.
I can't remember the exact amount, but he can, there was an example which baffles me to this day, that a young girl had sent a photo to her partner at the time, who was also underage, and then I think her parents found out or something, and then her parents took him to court after reporting him and everything. I think he did share the image or something had happened, and then he did get a criminal charge, and I think he had to do hours or something. He didn't have to go to prison. It was a record
consequence.
Yeah, there's definitely consequences. But then the worst part was then I think he then went back at her and said, because he was also underage, that she gave nude images to an underage person, so then she also got
charged with it.
Now they've fixed that. So I think that was 3 years ago, and that's changed now. But that was the only last example I'd heard about.
And I don't want to.
Both have criminal records now at the age of 21.
I think it's important not to play the gender game on this too.
No,
I think it's just a human
It's
problem.
sport,
Right?
yeah.
I'd like to prevent it in the first place. And again, great controversial subject that everybody loves. But if all the stats show that the predominant people who have these sort of issues in life come from single parent households.
Really?
Oh my word.
Oh, that's a good
So
one.
yes, you are 27 times more likely to go to prison, for argument's sake, if you come from a single parent household.
I came from a single parent house.
It doesn't mean you're going to end up there. No, and it's not an attack. It's a fact of, again, it's about honesty, right?
Yeah.
We talk about these things.
Yeah.
Now, if you're not going to talk about that on, I know you got a lovely Channel 7 award. Channel 7 would never talk about that.
Yeah, true.
Because, quite frankly, it hurts their
I've
finances.
also never been on Channel 7.
They gave you the award nearly.
I know.
Oh, that's rough.
Don't even.
That's yeah. Well, you're very welcome.
Abused and
to
abused.
anytime you like. There you go.
Well, we can call Channel 7 and say, hey, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Hey, look, you're not been on Channel 7. I mean, come on.
Exactly.
Jeez, how bad is that?
Are you?
No, you're right. You're right when you say we cannot put gender on this.
No.
With my couples, when we talk about because sometimes people come in and say, yeah, because these men do, I know that men do more this, and the other one say, no, I know that women more do this. Guys, don't listen what you don't believe what you listen on internet. Talking about masses, when we talk about a couple, okay, it doesn't work. It's not that a man usually is forget more a date than a woman. That's not true.
No, definitely not my situation.
Yeah, I can see every day there is one sometimes forget, and the other one sometimes forget.
Yeah.
It's both of them are responsible of what's going on here. Okay, so I try to teach them to not to talk about generalization, because every couple is different.
Of course,
generalization is very dangerous.
Yes,
Yeah.
every relationship, every teenager, every house is different to the other one, and we don't know what's going on until we got in and listen both or all the people involved in the relationship.
How do we try this little idea? A little kindness.
Yeah.
Like some simple kindness. Like when people are going off the rails and doing things that don't make a lot of sense from the outside looking in, it's normally because they're reacting to something that's not working in their life.
Yes.
They're suffering pain. If you can give people a little kindness, and I think this is something teenagers need to learn, which there's an absolute impossible dream, but it would be nice.
Yeah.
That's not fair. I just generalized. Look at me go.
Generalize.
I just did it.
It But say like with kindness, I know a lot, like a major conversation I was having with a lot of young people that was really just like, okay, I was like, this is getting too much, is around cancel culture. For me, I can't even understand this concept of cancel culture. So someone says something wrong one time, and even if they, apologize about it, no, we're all canceling them.
Yep.
To me, that is social bullying.
It is.
I can't understand how they made another word for that. Like, how can you not understand that maybe that's okay? This person has maybe a different perspective, which might be shaped from their experiences, which might be, trauma or what they've been, able to be familiarized with or not. So that's like things like cancel culture is so popular with young people.
It is. And people need to know, this little side note on that is, okay, it doesn't really exist. I've been cancelled 3 times.
Nice, congrats.
Yeah,
Bravo.
right. Yeah, so still here. In fact, probably louder than ever.
Bullying.
That's all it is.
It's actually getting cancelled. People are just finding an excuse to bully someone collectively.
Spot on. It's insecurity, it's weakness turned into bullying, right? That's all it is. And it's very sad. And but conversations like this, they work to stop this.
Absolutely. Now, I know that we have to be shorter today, okay? I have just last question for you, okay? I think this is important. What parents can do to make sure is a absolute word and is not right, but to help the teenager to not go through situation that they don't want to? What the parents can do to make better?
First of all, I always just really like to clarify that because I know a lot of times especially with the concept of suicide prevention, that you can't necessarily prevent all suicides because it's not possible sometimes for everyone to see the signs, and there's a lot of self-blame even after a loss of why didn't we notice the signs, or why didn't we do this sooner, and that is the worst thing that you can do after that. So if anyone has had a loss, you're definitely not alone, and there's a lot of people that could have never ever have thought of or done the most perfect right thing in that moment. But of course, just in general, like I always say, for a parent, there's always key things that can happen in a young person's life. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to take risk-taking behaviors, but is something to try and make sure that you have some form of open communication with. Like, for example, we were saying, if they have a relationship breakdown, that is consistently in a lot of teenagers, especially if you knew that they thought that this person was the one, and now for some reason their girlfriend or boyfriend doesn't love them anymore, is now dating their friend, which is something I kept hearing in the space. Apparently everyone's dating everyone else's friend. But that was the worst thing that could have ever happened to that child, because their whole idea and concept of life and love and everything is completely broken in that time. And to just be aware that even in those moments, whether it's that or anything else that is really significant in their life that has suddenly happened, to make sure that you're there and make sure that you let them know that you're there for them, and that you're not going to be in a place to full on give like advice and this is what you need to do and but you're there to listen and hold space for them. Active listening is really important, as well as, for example, if you see that they might need help, of asking them, how would you like me to help you? Would you like me to help you find support? And really ask them what sort of help would help, and as well as giving examples of how you could help as well. And then I would just really say as well, just
you think spending more time, because what I've seen with my couple sometimes, there is one of the things people say is, I would love to stay more with my family. Okay, do you think spending more time with the teenager, son or daughter, kids anyway, can help?
It really depends what their issue is. Like, for example, I remember that one, for example, that just really stuck in my head, that they had not even, it wasn't their partner at that time. They just had a big crush on a girl, and the girl decided that they liked their best friend. And that was really the reason for them. And the thing for this person was they were so close with their family. And that's the other thing. It's another concept, obviously, that we won't have time to go into, but just there was someone who, I think they went to India, and they were saying why all these kids in the slums were so happy. And they were saying, what's happening? And then he came back to Australia, and then it was a concept around resilience. And they were saying that some kids in Australia are genuinely going through a lot of trauma. And of course, that is a lot behind their reasonings of, serious mental health concerns. But sometimes we're even seeing kids who have had the most beautiful upbringing as well, live in an absolute beautiful bubble of bliss and support, that when for the first time something didn't go their way, they don't know how to respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just
we're all unique. We are.
Yeah, but even I always say that you always notice the key symptoms. Like, for example, if your young person seems really, really down, and then all of a sudden really happy, and like a bit ecstatic, sometimes that is a reason for concern, because maybe they finally found a way out, which is death. There's another one is even just their saying goodbyes in a different way. So, for example, I had a friend who had just gone through a divorce at the age of 21. She was pretty young. Okay. And she had texted me and a few of my friends, like, thank you, you've been such a good friend. And I messaged my friends, did you get this message as well? Because she's not answering her phone. Yes, we all got the message. She's not answering her phone. I called the ambulance straight away. I knew she was home alone, and the ambulance went and stopped her attempt. And she's remarried and happy and living her best life now. Wonderful. So she's great. But it's just things like that no one else in my friendship group would have known, but I was studying psychology at the time. But so thank you messages, giving away things that they really love, that is really important to them as well. As well as if they are looking for a way of means. So it might even be, sometimes I think some people have seen that they have tried to find and I'm not going to go into the details of things, but finding ways of means.
Yes.
Yeah.
Neeka, you're amazing. So straight up, like, honestly, I didn't want to come in here with any preconceived ideas, and mate, you get some brilliant people. You do. Tell you what, 5 stars.
I'm trying.
Doing well.
Thank you. I'm trying. Only the best for the best radio.
Of course. Jesus, mutual friendship, little group, patting each other on the back. But here's the thing: can we please have you back?
Yeah.
Really, I'd love to continue this conversation, and I think it's so important.
I think it is. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. As honestly, I always say, as much as we can have this conversation and it's on the forefront of people's minds, the better it is, the safer our community is, the safer our loved ones are, and everything. And even just some of the, spicier topics, things that you brought up, I'm like, ooh, that is good.
I'm bringing the vindaloo. Right now, I'm bringing it. Here it comes.
But it's important to have those spicy conversations.
Bring the Mexican chili,
Yeah.
Absolutely. A bit of the Reapers, mate. It wouldn't be away. All right, that is the end of the show. Yes. Absolute pleasure. Really, thank you so much. But we're going to have to get you back. Simple as that. Thank you, mate, as always.
Thank you.
Brilliant what you bring. This has, of course, been
Progress Over Perfection. And next week, we will talk about divorce. Okay?
That sounds like I'm waiting for that one. You should have me on. I'm an expert. Done it 3 times.
No, next will be divorce and talk about divorce. Yes.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Radio Australia.